You're sitting across from someone who needs you to vouch for them. A reference call for a job. A character witness. They're in actual trouble and your word could help. You said yes. You promised you'd show up. But now that the moment's here, now that speaking up might actually cost you something, you're scrolling through reasons why staying quiet makes more sense. Your phone is buzzing. You could just not answer. Let it ring. They'd understand, right? Now flip it. You're the one who needed someone to show up. And you're staring at your phone realizing they're not going to. The hearing is in an hour. The meeting starts in 20 minutes. And the people who said I've got you have all suddenly developed a case of selective memory. That tightness in your chest? That specific flavor of betrayal that tastes worse than being stabbed by an enemy? Paul knew exactly what that felt like. 2 Timothy chapter 4. Paul is in the Mamertine prison in Rome. If you've never seen pictures of this place, look it up. It's a hole carved into rock underground. No windows. You get in and out through a hole in the ceiling. When archaeologists excavated it centuries later, they found human remains still chained to the walls. Paul is in his 60s. He's cold. Winter is coming and he needs Timothy to bring him his coat before the sailing season ends. He's asking for his books. He's making the kind of mundane requests you make when you know you're looking at your last winter on Earth. But the part that lands different is what happened in the courtroom. Roman legal process had 2 stages. The first hearing, the preliminary trial, determined if your case went forward or if you were getting executed immediately. And Roman law required character witnesses, people who'd stand next to you in court and say, I know this man. Here's who he is. Paul has spent 30 years planting churches across 3 continents. He's got friends everywhere, co-workers, people he's traveled with, eaten with, been shipwrecked with, been beaten alongside in riots. This man has a network. And when he walks into that Roman courtroom and looks around for a familiar face, there's nobody. He doesn't say my enemies attacked me. He doesn't say the Romans arrested me. Listen to what he actually writes in verse 16. At my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. Everyone, he's counting faces, scanning the crowd, and one by one, realizing they're not coming. He names names. Verse 10, Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. Demas used to be Paul's fellow laborer. Paul mentioned him by name in earlier letters as someone he worked with, someone he trusted. And when the cost got too high, Demas loved this world more than he loved showing up. Then there's Alexander. Verse 14, Alexander the metalworker did me a great deal of harm. This isn't just absence. This is active opposition. Some scholars think Alexander actually testified against Paul, took the stand and contradicted his defense, turned witness for the prosecution. Paul doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't say everyone had their reasons or I'm sure they were busy. He says it plainly, they didn't show up, and it hurt. But then comes verse 17, and Paul uses the exact same language he just used about the people who abandoned him. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. When humans didn't show up in the courtroom, God did. And not in some abstract spiritual way. Paul says I was delivered from the lion's mouth, meaning he survived the hearing. He got through the first trial. He's still alive to write this letter. He's not pretending the betrayal didn't happen. He's not saying it's fine. I didn't need them anyway. He's saying, I looked for human faces and saw none. And then I realized there was a presence in the room that mattered more. Now watch what Paul does next. Verse 11. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to me in my ministry. Mark, the same Mark who abandoned Paul on an earlier missionary journey. The same Mark Paul refused to work with afterward. The same Mark Paul and Barnabas had a falling out over because Paul didn't trust him. That Mark. Paul asks for him by name. Bring him. He's useful. Paul got burned by people and his response wasn't to stop trusting people. It was to keep building, keep asking, keep extending the chance to show up even to the ones who didn't before. So what are you going to do with the betrayal you're carrying? Because you've got 2 options. You can let what they did turn you into someone who never risks trusting again. Build the walls high. Keep the circle small. Never give anyone the chance to hurt you like that again. That's one way to live. A lot of people choose it. You'll be safe. You'll also be alone. Or you can do what Paul did. You can name the hurt. Actually say it out loud. Write it down. Stop pretending it didn't land. And then make the decision that their betrayal doesn't get to dictate who you become. You can ask for Mark. You can bring your coat and your books and keep working. You can look for the presence that shows up when people don't. Before you go to bed tonight, write down 2 names. One name, the person who didn't show up when you needed them. Say what they did. Be specific. Don't spiritualize it. Then write a second name, someone you're going to ask to show up for you this week. Not because you're sure they will. Because you're refusing to let betrayal make you a person who stops asking. The people who abandoned Paul didn't get to write the ending of his story. They revealed what his life was actually built on. And it wasn't them. Yours isn't built on them either. That's what happens next.